Hello, everybody. And yeah, thank you all so much for coming this evening, despite the heat wave, for the screening of Undead Internet Theory. Yeah, if you haven't been here before, this is EC Contemporary, and we are the UK's only non-profit that specializes in platforming and presenting East and Southeast Asian art and art practices. We are really thankful to be welcoming Hannah as well as Declan today, who form a part of the artist and writer duo Y7. They are the creators of the Undead Internet Theory, as well as our curator in residence, Milia, who will be in conversation with the two of them today. But yeah, I'll hand it over to Milia, who will introduce everything. Yeah.
Hello everyone. My name is Milia. I'm currently the curator in residence here at EC Contemporary. I'm here to continue my research into creative technology and culture, especially explore how we engage with increasingly agentic technologies, who and what we become along, in relation to them, and how we learn to live alongside them. So as part of my residency, I'm also curating a series of puppy programs, and tonight's screening is the inaugural session, and I'm incredibly happy to have Y7 here to kick off this journey. I think also, perhaps on behalf of Y7, we're very happy to see this lovely community here, gathered here tonight, and to bounce ideas off one another and to think together digital culture and emerging technologies. So before we start, I would like to introduce Y7. You can find their official biography in this paper, so I will introduce them in my own words. So Hannah, Declan are two of my favorite people to talk to whenever I have ideas, inspirations, or new plans, and even confusions related to technologies and its complexities. They have been spent years thinking about and working with generative AI, decentralized systems, and many strange realities emerging from them. And they are also practitioners who actively work with advanced technologies themselves, including like quantum computing and data practices, and they always try to break down the boundary between disciplines. From their early work, Prompt Core, into the sci-fi film Report 5923, and from their recent research inquiry into non-player world to the film we're going to watch tonight, Undead Internet Theory, their practice combines critical analysis, experimentation, and critical research into how technology reshape our imagination and our social realities and our relationship with politics and like digital capitalism and one another. That's a brief introduction of them. About the film we're going to watch tonight is titled Undead Internet Theory. It's this commissioned film that sits somewhere between theory, interview, and speculative fiction. And I believe many of us will find moments in the film that we felt like really resonate with our own experiences and our own curiosities and anxieties about the internet we inhabit today. So the film is about 32 minutes, and after that, Hannah and I, we will have a brief conversation to unpack some of the questions and topics raised by the film. And after that, we will open the floor to all of you. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions, your reflections, and comments. So now, without further ado, let's watch Undead Internet Theory. Enjoy. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for this wonderful film. I would like to maybe start with something that inspired me most, to share that and ask to start our conversation. I think it really inspired me to think that living with digital technologies, we've already been going through a long process of becoming what some theories call like individuals and rather than individuals. So that meaning we're constantly broken down into like data points or behavioral patterns and preferences and connections, and as Phil mentioned many times, and probabilities. And our digital existence is never really a unified whole, and instead it's always fragmented and distributed and continuously combined into new patterns. So in that sense, that kind of like coherent I is already beginning to dissolve, and to be online, especially now, is to exist through this continuous process of decomposition and recomposition as fragments, as digital traces, and as relations. And perhaps the undead is always been the condition of being online. So maybe just like AI bots and agentic web, maybe just simply making this undead and unmanned layer somehow visible and readable. So I want to maybe later hear your thoughts on that. So maybe we can start with a very simple question. I wonder, how did Undead Internet Theory become something you wanted to work on? What was it about the idea that first drew you in?
Do you want to take it? Thank you for having us, and thank you for coming to sit in the basement on the hottest day in recorded history.
And thanks for bearing with us with the you got
for
a sneak peek behind the curtain, seeing an old version of the film.
An old version with an LLM voice rather than the dulcet tones of Miss Cobb. The idea for the video essay is kind of really uninspiring. We took on two projects at the same time that were both neologism first, which I just think is a really lame way to do a project, but we did it. So there was the dead internet theory, and it was just like in a really, fairly unintelligent way, just like, what about the undead internet theory? What might that look like? And then it kind of had legs. So I'm not going to lie to you. You've all come on the hottest day of the year. It wasn't like a strike of genius. It was just like an interesting provocation that we tried to then kind of tease out. You Google undead internet theory, you see Eddie Mitchell's, his writing on it, which is really short, kind of very pointed, very direct article on Web3. It's kind of like an elevator pitch of an article, and we spoke to him about it. And it's generally this idea that, it's kind of, if we take the dead internet theory as, firstly a conspiracy theory that, like many conspiracy theories turned out to be somewhat true, but add into the fact that, during COVID we were all online, but we do sort of, our online existences do take place in this kind of animate but dead space, just trying to work out and tease out what the future of that looks like. And so this idea of something that's animate but dead being undead, that was the kind of, it was a very simple neologism-led idea that was also heavily inspired by Visions of Heaven and Hell, which was a 1994 three-part documentary on the future of technology that was broadcast on Channel 4 and is available on YouTube. All three parts featured. It was kind of the end of. It was like Britpop was just coming in, like populism and kind of like anti-intellectualism was starting to come into the mainstream. And it was like one of the last bastions of this very like artful documentary form. There's like broadcast like on Channel 4 prime time with a massive budget. It's like Bill Gates is interviewed, Stephen Hawking, Nick Land makes an infamous appearance, and it's narrated in this proto-ASMR way by Tilda Swinton. It's just beautifully shot, and it's 3 parts of like really considering what the future of, you know, the coming millennium, the internet, technology, what the future is going to be, and really making some bold predictions, a lot of which were bang on the money, and we just keep coming back to it as a reference. I really recommend it's just a beautiful piece of TV. So that was the main kind of influence.
A lot of them, some were bang on the money, but then it's actually crazy watching that back because it's insanely optimistic as well.
Yeah.
Like you realise you're like watching all these people talking about how, you know, the internet's going to be this like hugely kind of unifying like town square space where all the ills of the world will be solved through like collaborative processes.
It's proper lost in the source of like Web 1
and it's just
cypherpunk.
like it's kind of the original promise of the internet kind of, and they're kind of trying to manifest it, and it's really nice to watch just to kind of retrospectively think optimistically in that way.
You can't find that kind of vibe now.
No.
I mean, it's all of the cinematography is really influenced by Koyaanisqatsi. Because why not? 'Cause it's like beautiful. I just love that.
The filmmaker didn't like it.
But the filmmaker, didn't like Koyaanisqatsi.
The director.
The director, we did an interview with the people who made it. But anyway.
Yeah, that reminds me to think about like in the honeymoon stage, very early stage of internet, we all imagine like internet can be the public space for us to know strangers and to meet and to communicate and to collectively participate in something. But if the internet becomes increasingly now populated by agents and acting on behalf of other agents, what happens to the imagination of public space?
I think because I I've been going on Substack quite a lot, and for some reason that the algorithm on there is just serving me up like total kind of deceleration, like everyone go back to analog. This like totally idealized a version of the past where everything was fine because digital communicative technologies weren't as advanced. I think there is in some corners of like, I'm saying this, it's really hard to say because I don't know what's like a generalized kind of take and what's just my bubble. But I see a lot of people wanting to withdraw into like meat space again, and kind of rejecting, particularly being on social media. I think because a lot of these platforms have just become like cesspits of just like insane comment sections where it's just bots arguing against each other. And I think just to kind of, I saw a meme that was like something about being online and everyone's just it's just like I can't even remember, it's like the angry guys from like the memes, like the drawings of like them shouting at each other, and it's like, and then you look outside and it's just people sitting on the grass enjoying having a picnic together. Right. And it's like this is what you're experiencing on your phone, this is what you could experience in the real world, and you kind of sometimes step back but then what's the real world anymore? Like
that's just so true.
So much of our work life, social life is mediated by these platforms, and so then surely that's the reality that a lot of people are experiencing every day. So it's but in terms of public space, I mean, that was the kind of original promise of Twitter and Instagram, these like forums where people would just share their kind of thoughts and holiday pictures, but now it feels a lot less. Yeah. Well, because so much of it has been co-opted by advertising as well. You kind of can't escape that.
When we talk about technology, we actually a lot of the time talk about power. Like where power is seated, and like if we went back to like I think that the experience of the internet and its, which is, you know, very like antiquated term, but like would be a lot different if you made a pretty simple change of users being able to have direct access to control or modulate the recommendation algorithm that is serving them what they are seeing. And if, you know, Twitter just wasn't at the kind of whims of Elon Musk. I don't think it's like, I don't think you have to imagine that hard to make these technologies like actually, you know, pretty decent and like a social good. I think a lot of the time we talk about AI, tech and stuff, we actually are talking about power. Like, yeah, I think.
Yeah. Then like continue this topic about power, and I would like to ask a question about this human AI collaboration question. Like we always have asked this kind of questions to like artists about how do you feel about AI becoming your collaborator? But now I want to like flip the question to like how does it feel to become collaborators of AI? For you too, and you have lots of experiences like working with like voice models, language models, and also all different kinds of like models.
I can do my spicy take.
Yeah.
My spicy take is that if we manage to like, if I come across like a really interesting cultural artifact, I don't care what made it. I don't really care about whether it was like, you know, human made or not. If it's interesting critically, then I find like, yeah, I don't then ask myself, but was it made by a human? I'm fascinated, and I take very seriously Shrimp Jesus as a phenomenon, and I think this confluence of like financialization, of recommendation systems, of generative AI models kind of coming together in this semi-automated or fully automated way to give rise to this very bizarre meme. I genuinely, earnestly find it absolutely fascinating. I think that one of the things that we're interested in is not making like AI more human, making it more normcore. Like at least my, and as someone who works in tech, my kind of last utopian fork in the road is Deep Dream. I think the premise of Deep Dream is to make the machine be more machiney, make the AI be more like itself, to kind of follow those kind of internal tendencies more, and not to kind of tack it onto reality and photorealism and normal things as much as we can in order to productize it, but, you know, to uncover, you know, these kind of nascent inherent machine languages, machine visions that are kind of emergent from very complex systems, and as a new form, in the same way that someone might find nature, you know, awesome and inspiring. I find very complex computational systems can be really, really beautiful. So my approach to working with technology is to try and unearth the inherent tendencies and complexities and to enjoy them, rather than to like make them more human. And that's something I undertake very, very earnestly.
I looked up something about AI collaboration when I was thinking about this question, and there was this company, and the tagline for it was, there's no I in team, but there's an AI in team. It's like, it's just like, it just makes no sense. But I feel like collaboration there's a whole thing about like making AI seem like a person or like a living thing. What's it called, that when anthropomorphizing these systems, which I think, like, if you think about the way that artists work with other tools throughout history, like, you wouldn't necessarily say that the artist collaborated with the camera. But then I think that's a really interesting place to start thinking about, like, how these tools like these emerging tools differ from the tools that we've used in the past.
They're more agentic,
yeah,
more visible.
But then we thought about like what is agency as well, and we came to the conclusion that kind of somewhat cynically that agency is having like financial, like the ability to accumulate and spend money.
Yeah, if you're going to take like a very cynical of like what does, rather than how we would like just as like people would choose to define agency or wish to define agency, but like what is like maybe quite a in, you know, the world we live in, what is one kind of decent way of like, let me start again. If you give an AI agent money, its agency seems all the more fucking real, right? Like agent with no money, agent with like a Web3 wallet slapped to it. That's a hell of a lot more like agentic seeming. That was our rationale. Yeah, but I can't remember where you were.
Yeah, that was it. Just thinking about these terms and what they mean in relation to this technology, and like whether we are, and I think we definitely are in need of like a new vocabulary to describe the way that these things operate and the way that people interact with them.
I think, as we have a very limited time, I want to just throw this question, not only for Hannah Declan, also for all audience. This is actually the question in this the introduction of the film. The question is the internet dead, dying, or transforming into something even stranger than death? I would like to hear like everyone to answer this question, or give me your comments or anything. Or do you want to maybe answer first? Or,
I really like Anna Rose Kerr's answer of like, she's amazing, and also now
a green counsellor.
A green counsellor in London. She's fantastic, and please do read. She works a lot about and writes a lot about like internet infrastructure and the internet as you know, in its physical existence, and it is a very real physical thing. But yeah, her kind of we cannot take any credit for that. I would not wish to. Of her kind of prediction, or it doesn't seem less prediction because it just seems pretty. I don't know. It seems like a really strong thesis of it becoming more of an ambient integration into reality. I saw a photo recently of some guy had taken a photo of his colleague. He's like, our lead engineer has thrown his keyboard away, and it's just like a desk and like all these screens with code, and he's just got like a microphone on the stand, and like he's just like because you don't QWERTY, you just chuck it out. It's natural language, it's integrated, it's ambient. You're on a residency with someone who only
interacts with Copilot through his voice.
Yeah.
He's dyslexic.
I also know someone, we talk about it, and our designer also only now. They don't type, they just talk to all the devices.
So I think that integrated ambient kind of, and what that means for the screen, I don't know. Yeah.
And in a way, that kind of proves its undeadness in the sense that it almost operates like a virus, in the sense that it's using us as its host. Like that sounds a lot more like horrific than I mean for it to be. It still sounds a bit dramatic, but it then like becomes a part of us. I mean even physically, like we're talking about like Neuralink as well, like to have these like embedding, like things embedded into our actual bodies.
Like my experience, one of the seeds for Undead Internet was when we went to Milan and on holiday, and then we went to see the Duomo, and we were stood out there, and I was like looking at it, and I was like, it's just not giving real. Like it just doesn't, like it feels like content. It doesn't look, it looks like a backdrop to me. I had this really derealized experience where I was just like, it doesn't seem plausible to me, this kind of architecture. So it's like an online pilled take on it, but we were talking about content core, of like this idea of content, of like, you know, of things being content, of content existing offline, of like opportunities or social interactions as content, buildings as content, and it's like this financialization of everything, this transactionalized. So again, of the internet and network culture having these very real phenomena, the phenomena of content as an experience as well. I think it's that kind of ambient integration.
Yeah. I wonder if we have any questions from the audience. Do you want to?
That was excellent, by the way. Sorry. I just was thinking, you in the video, you mentioned how there's a potential that we will be transitioning from web browsers to a completely different platform using potentially AI as a way to change that over. And I was just wondering what you thought of, because I was thinking in my head that that frightens me in a way, because it's so new and so different, and I've only ever grown up using web browsers. Do you think people who might be frightened or uncertain about that are experiencing the same sort of fear and change and of unfamiliarity that every generation goes through when the times change, we move forward? Or is it such a large thing that people are collectively feeling through different generations that it's different?
So much of our lives are invested in, we're going to just use the very general term internet here to kind of just assume we all know what we're on about. It's a very big thing, but what you've said seems really plausible, like that you would feel that way. I don't have a very good change curve. I don't deal with change very well. But if so much of our lives are invested in these things, you get used to living your life in a certain way. When that does change, then yeah, that is a scary thing. I guess this change, let's say this agentic era post kind of AI, is maybe comparable to the birth of the internet in its kind of fundamental shift. Whether or not, I wouldn't care to say. It feels like a very significant shift. I wouldn't care to maybe make any bolder statements than that, but other than to validate your the way you feel, that I also sort of identify with. That is very scary.
Yeah, it's something that we think about a lot, that comparison to older kind of inflection points in history where things have been introduced, but new ways of just kind of living in the world and and receiving and producing information. The printing press is always referred to clocks, maps, all of these things that totally reorient our kind of our place and our just kind of perspective. And I think it's kind of the eternal question of is this now any different from those times, or is it only in retrospect that we can be oh, that was a move towards the betterment of the human race. But I think the difference here is that I don't think at any other point in history there's been a literal trillionaire involved in the steering of these technologies for maybe a future scenario where he goes to the moon.
Yeah, that's the more power thing.
It's who's in charge, who governs these systems. I think that is the but
a redistribution of power would make things look a lot different.
Better, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was a bit in the film where he said, one of the speakers said, the question is, why are we asking for these things? And I just thought, I'm not. I feel like a lot of this stuff is enforced upon us, the continual repetition of this is inevitable, get with the programme, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and I wonder, I'm a bit of a Luddite, but I'm a Luddite in a historical sense, in that it's about material conditions, and I wonder if the problem is not so much the tool, but is the ideological system that it's being pushed in. And I don't know if you agree with that, or you're nodding a lot, so I'm sure you do, but
Can I just say really quickly, I thought the same thing when I watched that again. When that came up, I thought, why? Yeah, do we need them? And I immediately was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how like it is the conditions of work, for example, that have led, unlike the just having way too much to do at work, that lead you to be like, oh, I'm gonna use this tool to like offload some of my tasks onto, and like shorten this piece of text that I need to edit, and like, yeah, it's the conditions of like, it's the way that work works at the moment, which is then like working in tandem with the introduction of these tools, and that then make you think like, oh yeah, I did need this technology, I did need this tool, like.
Yeah, I think that, so two very quick things. The first being that something that, yeah, I also agree that you know, a lot of these things are pushed upon us, but we also do have to also at the same time acknowledge that AI is the fastest adopted technology in the history of mankind. Like, and we just have to like also acknowledge that. The other thing I'll say about like, let's say Claude Code has had a really positive impact on my life and the operational structure of the company that I work in. And what I mean by that is the technical gap that existed previously when I first started messing around with AI and Google Colab has been, that technical gap has been totally closed by Claude Code, to the point where a creative technologist such as myself, who sits more on the kind of creative than the techie side of the spectrum, can now spin out applications and chuck them over into our research and applications team. And we are now looking at, you know, in terms of our hiring, we are looking at actually creative minds rather than, and sort of artistic intervention in the R&D process is something that's more on the table than it was previously. Why is this important and why is this a good thing? Well, when Midjourney first came about, and we still live in this paradigm of a visual paradigm that was a data set essentially assembled by engineers and devs. And a lot of this led to, like, frankly, paedophilic, really, you know, and I don't say that word lightly either, like early Midjourney and Midjourney still, you put in girl, you get or you put in woman rather, you get a child's face with like abnormally large bodily features. Like it's, you know, it really is that. And this, I believe, comes from a lack of intervention in the R&D process. I've seen these things play out myself, and the more kind of lateral thinking and creative intervention we can have in these processes, that I do believe tools like Claude Code and these kind of vibe coding tools does, I've seen, bridge that gap, can have a positive impact in terms of like our hiring policy. So I do also want to say that, like, you know, these tools have made our practice and our lives like richer in the terms of the creative R&D we're able to undertake, at the same time that we're like critical of sort of power structures and stuff. But it does make me hopeful that we can bring in more people into those conversations who weren't in that room previously. And that is something that is afforded by the technology, I think.
Yeah, we have another question.
Hi, thank you. Again, it was a really, really interesting video essay. And I'm sorry if this question is going to be a little bit rambly. That's just how I roll.
Go for it.
So I'm quite interested in the fact that all LLMs are trained on like human-generated content. And I'm also quite interested in the failure of the metaverse and VR. Like, you know, in the video essay, there is this sort of imagined future where we are living almost like entirely on this like internet-mediated, like, I don't even have the words to be able to describe what that world would look like because it is so foreign. And the fact that we're even calling it a dead internet because we're perceiving it as being entirely created by robots instead of human, we still have that distinction. And I suppose my question is do you think there's something innately holding us back from entirely spending our lives on the internet? And do you think that that boundary is being pushed by these new technologies. I said it would be rambling, I'm so sorry.
It's good.
I mean,
It's good
first thing is like Google Glasses are so shit. Like it's so funny that little, like, I find that that fork of like of technology progress that's been there since like the night. It's in
wearable tab.
Yeah, no, of like a VR headsets and stuff.
Right,
Of like that whole thing, I've always just found it like just a really ridiculous fork of technology. And I'm doing a residency at a new media institution, and they have like the newest tech, and we tried like the Google Glasses, and I was just like, these are shit. They're so rubbish. Like, yeah, so I find that fork of like, I feel is forced upon us. VR, I'm like, that is a joke. But your actual question was maybe a lot less silly than that.
I think that the idea of like friction and frictionlessness is important here. And I think that there's, again, like something like a desire that is placed upon us maybe is for this entirely frictionless reality of like all your agents are doing everything for you. Everything you do is mediated online. Like you wear your Meta AI glasses that can just scan someone and like do facial recognition and tell you who they are, so you don't have to speak to them. Like there's this kind of again, it's this thing, and it's a PR strategy that's been in place since Edward Bernays and like post-war US. Like this is this understanding of like human desire and how to manipulate it. And I think I can see that we're being told that we want this frictionless reality of like not having to go and speak to somebody, not having to deal with a worker in a shop, like not having to think to write your own job application. But I think that without the dopamine hit of having to have a challenge, the human race will really struggle. Like I think that we need to have things to work towards and to do. I think that it's also the conversation about like labour if UBI is introduced. Like people want to work. I think it's an innate like human desire to do things and do things in the world, even if that is doing things on the internet. It's like not having some kind of like digital conduit to like do that for you. And I think that's,
I think as well,
yeah.
like, you know, friction and frictionlessness, like that right there is like, that's a bit of empty retail space, and that's what like, is being headed towards. But I think as well, so what I think about so often is optimization, and like TikTok and these platforms optimize, and what dictates the way that they are is the fact that they are optimized to capture your attention. If they were optimized towards a different end, it would be a very, very different experience. I would recommend really something that I became obsessed with was reading the Monolith white paper that is about a portion of TikTok's recommendation system and how that works. It's fascinating. I think they should teach media kind of physics in school, about compression, about recommendation systems, about about optimization. It should be the same as, you know, being taught about gravity. I really do think that, and I think that would be very empowering to be equipped with this stuff from a young age. But learning about these systems and realizing that yes, what they optimize for is to capture your attention is very limited actually use of what they could be. So I think that, you know, it's a question of optimization for me. Is like, what are we optimizing towards? What are these systems actually trying to do? And often it's this very one-dimensional thing of capture your attention, which can be very funny on TikTok and very gratifying. And I don't like not mind it sometimes, but like, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I think we should probably wrap things up here. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and ideas, and also making this wonderful film. And also thank you all for participating in this conversation. We will still be around for like 15 minutes or something. So if you have more questions, or if you want to chat with Anna Declan, please stay with us a little bit longer. And yeah, thank you all, and also thanks
thank
EC
you.
team. Thank you very much. Yeah.